So history has shown that woman has gone and had gone through difficulties and hardship during their, like the history of the human being. There was a bad time and good times. And that because of the mistreatments of men, and also because of the understanding of the society around them. Although women constitute half of the society, their value is greater than their number. Women can have either a negative or a positive impact on the other half, representing in husband and children. One of the famous Egyptian poets pointed to that when he described woman as a whole school. A productive and a noble nation will be achieved and obtained if you have a well-educated woman. We consider in Islam that women are half of the society and they are responsible to raise the other half. What does this mean? They are also going to affect the other half in every aspect in their life. For these reasons, scientists, thinkers, developers, and educators, they have been working hard to provide women with justice and rights. And they showed interest in women's status and treating her with respect and elimination of all the form of unfairness and oppression against her. Women have the right to study, have the right to work, and also they have the right to choose their partner. This presentation is intended to provide a brief, authentic clarification of women's status in Islam. So everything I'm going to say today, it is from the Holy Quran or from the authentic tradition of the Prophet. In order to achieve that, it may be useful to review briefly how other civilizations treated women. This describes the status of women up to the 19th century, more than 12 centuries after Islam. These are the outline we are going to tackle. What other civilization over women, women's rights in Islam, women as human being, spiritual aspects, social aspects, economic aspects, political aspects, moral aspects, equity and equality, famous women in Islamic history. What other civilization offered women? So let me go back to the olden ages. Babylonian civilization. If a man murdered a woman, his wife was put to death instead of him. Ancient India, subjection was a foundation principle of the status of Indian woman. The rule of inheritance was agnatic. Athens. Woman was always minor, subject to some male, to their father, to their brother, or their male relatives. Her consent in marriage was not necessary, and she was obliged to submit to the wishes of her parent. Roman civilization. When Roman civilization was at the peak of its glory, a man even had the right to take the life of his wife. In Roman law, a woman was completely dependent. If married, she and her property passed into the power of her husband. The wife was the precious property of her husband, and like a slave acquired only for her benefit. Greek civilization is considered the most glorious of all ancient civilization. Women were deprived of all the rights and were looked down upon. In Greek mythology, an imaginary woman called Pandora is the root cause of misfortune of human being. The Greek considered women to be subhuman and inferior to men. Prostitution became a regular practice among all classes of Greek society. Aristotle argued that women were not full human beings. Women were by nature deficient. And then his view of woman was later carried into other tradition, declaring that women were the tribe of Satan. The issue of Adam and Eve added a dimension to the earlier Greek idea of Aristotle. Is woman a human being? Around 560 CE, Christian era, there was a gathering of bishops in France to discuss what? Whether women possess soul or not. If they do possess soul, what would be their purpose on earth? Was it to worship God? And if they worshiped God, would they go to paradise? In the end, it was decided that, yes, women do possess soul, which was a break from previous tradition, but that their purpose was not just to worship God, but also to serve men. And still a lot of people deny the humanity of women. Some were unconvinced, and others admitted it, yet consider the woman a thing created for the humble service of a man. 50 years later, after that, around like 610 Christian era, the message of Islam came to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, declaring out loud that woman is a human being. Woman is a human being, giving a high status of woman in 170 verses in the Holy Quran. First, men and women have the same spiritual human nature. And this is from the Holy Quran. O mankind, be deified to your Lord, who created you from a single person, Adam, and from him he created his wife, and from both he created many men and women. It is he who has created you from a single person, and then from him he has created his wife in order he might settle with her in love. Woman rights in Islam. First, the spiritual aspects. Men and women have the same religious and moral duties and responsibilities. They both face the consequences of their deeds. Whoever does righteous deeds, male and female, and believe in the oneness of God, such will enter paradise. For Muslim, this is a long verse in the Holy Quran saying that for Muslim, men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women, for true men and women, for men and women who are patient and stable, for men and women who are humble, who humble themselves, for men and women who give in charity, for men and women who fast, for men and women who guard their chastity, for men and women who engage much in Allah's praise, Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward for them. Both genders are dignified and are trustees of Allah on earth. We have honored the children of Adam, male and female, and have preferred them above many of other creatures with remarkable elevation. Nowhere in the Holy Quran that one gender is superior to the other. Some mistakenly translate one word in the Holy Quran, qawama, or responsibility for the family, as superiority. The Quran makes it clear that the only basis of superiority of any person over another is piety and righteousness, not gender, color, or nationality. Woman is not blamed for the fall of man. The story of Adam and Eve in the Holy Quran frequently refer to both of them, never singling out Eve for the blame. And this is the verse. Adam, reside and your wife in paradise and enjoy its good things, as you both wish. But approach not this tree, or you both run into harm and wrongdoings. The Satan whispered to them, when they tasted of the tree, their shame became obvious to them, and they began to cover themselves with leaves of paradise over their bodies. And their Lord called unto them, didn't I forbid you that tree, and tell you that Satan was a declared enemy unto you? They said, O our Lord, we have wronged ourselves. If you don't forgive and bestow your mercy upon us, we shall certainly be lost. Pregnancy and childbirth are not seen as a punishment for eating from the forbidden tree. On the contrary, the Quran considers them to be grounds of love and respect due to mothers. The Quran states, and we have enjoined on the person to be good to her parent, means father and mother. And then his mother bore him in weakness and hardship, upon weakness and hardship, show gratitude to me and to your parent. Women in Islam are given exemptions of some duties. Fasting when they are pregnant, nursing, or menstruating. Praying when menstruating or bleeding after childbirth. The obligation to attend congregational prayer in the mosque, although they are not forbidden to do so. They are not obligated to take part as soldiers in the battlefield, although they are not forbidden to do so. There is no obligation to marry for married woman to spend any penny from her money for living as for men when they are married. Economic aspects. The Islamic law recognizes the full property rights of women before and after marriage. So all of these rules and regulation came the year of 610, Christian era. A married woman may keep her father's last name. Greater financial security is assured for women. No married woman is required to spend any penny from her property or income on the household unless if she chooses to. Generally, a Muslim woman is guaranteed support at all stages of her life as a daughter, wife, and mother and sister. Social aspect. The woman is not excluded from the area of social activities. And this is a verse from the Holy Quran. The believers, men and women, are awliya. The meaning of this word, helpers, supporters, friends, protectors of one another. They enjoin good deeds and forbid people from bad deeds. As a daughter, in the pre-Islamic era, female infanticide was accepted among some Arabic tribes. The Quran forbid these customs and considered this a crime like any other murder. By the way, nowadays, in this century, you hear about some countries, they allow to do this in a different. Criticizing the attitude of such parents who reject their female children. And then, this is a verse in the Holy Quran. When one of them heard of birth of a female child, and he is filled with grief.
This is all. Political aspects. By the way, like now I'm talking about something may sound different, may sound like when you look at the media, when you hear about what is going on in Muslim countries, you will find, oh, it doesn't exist, something not true. But this is like the original and authentic rules and regulation for women in Islam. The political aspects, the right of election as well as nomination to political offices also includes women's right to participate in public affairs. Both in the Quran and Islamic history, we find examples of women who participated in serious discussion or argument, even with the Prophet. One of them, she had an argument with the Prophet, and that was reported in the Holy Quran. We have a chapter in the Holy Quran by a name called Al-Mujadala. So a woman was like arguing and asking the Prophet. During the time of Caliph Umar, has anybody heard about Umar ibn al-Khattab? So he was a leader of just, he was a righteous leader, and he was he's well known. So during his time, he wanted to impose something and to come up with a new law for women. A woman stood in the mosque and told him, what you have said is wrong, and you have to do it this way. He answered and he said, you're right and Umar is wrong. Can you imagine? Like a king at that age. Don't look at nowadays. Like at his time, if nobody would dare to stand before the mayor even and talk about something in some other countries. But he ruled a big place, starting like his kingdom started from like the border of Egypt and to Persia, and like the north of Iraq and to Yemen down there. So that was his huge kingdom, and even though that was his answer. A good number of Muslim women scholars were consulted during the golden ages of Islam. During the time of the Prophet, there was a conflict, and he was like, how can I solve this issue? So the solution came from his wife. She told him, if you go outside and you do this, that issue will be solved. He did what she, advised him with, and it was resolved, and everybody was happy. Modesty and social interaction. There exists among Muslims a big gap between the ideal and the real. Cultural practice on both extremes do exist. Some Islamic culture imitate non-Islamic ones and adopts the mode of dress, unrestricted mixing and behaviors, resulting in corrupting influences on Muslims. On the other hand, other cultures consider excessive restrictions to be the ideal. Both extremes seem to contradict to normative teaching of Islam. Parameters of proper modesty of male and female dress and behavior are based on Quran and authentic Sunnah, and as divinely based guidelines with legitimate aims and divine wisdom behind them. They are not male-imposed or socially imposed restrictions. And to elaborate more on that, so if you go back to the old, like the first, the followers of Moses, peace be upon him, and the followers of Jesus, the first people who followed him, I mean the first generation, during that time, women had to cover, so Islam didn't bring something new. It was there already. Equity and equality. So this is an issue that is going on nowadays. Are we equal or are we different? Equity and equality. The term equity is used instead of the common expression equality, which is sometimes mistakenly understood to mean absolute equality in each and every details of items of comparison rather than the overall equality. So I would use the word equity because it means justice and overall equality of the totality of rights and responsibilities of both genders. It does allow for the possibility of variations in specific items within the overall balance and equality. So if you look at the universe, you would find everything exists in pairs. Like for living things, you have, for the tree, you have male and female. And for like animals, male and female. Even for the non-living things, also you will find like electricity. You have positive and negative. Even the small atom, you will have electrons and protons. So this is something that God says in the Holy Quran, and of everything we have created pairs. Men and women, so this is the idea of binary existence. So binary existence is one of the divine norm of the creation. Men and women are a unity that comprise the things and its complement. One doesn't exist without the other. One doesn't exist without the other. The Prophet said, women are the twin half of men. What all this comes is that the woman is different from the man, for she complements him and he complements her. A thing doesn't complement itself. The Quran, the Holy Quran emphasizes that differences. It says in the Holy Quran, male and the male is not like the female. They are as unlike as positive and negative. Yet the differences doesn't mean that they are opponents in any sense. They arise from each other and they are for each other. The rights and responsibilities of women are equal to those of a man, but they are not necessarily identical with them. Equity and identity are two different things. Equity and identity are two different things. Diversity, and differences is one of the norm of the creation. Differences, being different, and diversity is one of the norm of the creation. What does this mean? Even among one gender, Like if you have brothers at home, they came from the same womb, from a mother, and they ate the same food. They went to the same school, even though they have differences. They are different. Some of them may be allergic to shrimp, and if you have him to eat shrimp, he might die. The other one, he enjoys eating shrimp. Some of them, his favorite color is like red. The other one is maybe brown. So differences really exist. Differences in Islam, we celebrate differences and disagreements, and based on that, we have the tolerance. If you celebrate differences, diversity, disagreements, later on, you will embrace tolerance. So when you look even among one gender, you will find differences. You will find differences. So there is nothing equal in this life or identical. If I have like a piece of gold and a piece of silver, they are both, the price of each of them is $1,000, but they weigh different. So if I give you like the silver one, if I give the other one the gold one, and then I would say they are equal. Yes, they are equal in their price, but they are not equal in their weight, right? They weigh different. So this is the theory behind the differences. The differences. Everybody, like, we were created different. We were created to compromise, not to have, like, not to be opponent. So the term equity is used instead of the common expression equality. I have a story, like my old sister, one day she saw her daughter shaving her beard. She was like 6 years old, and she looked at her father, and then she went, in secret, and she started to, have the cream and to shave. And she said, "Oh, no, you can't do that." She said, "Mom, but my dad do that." And she said, "Oh, he's your dad." She said, "Okay, because of he's older than me, but I saw my brother is doing that too." She said, "You're a girl and he's a man. You're not supposed to do so." So as you can see now, so this is the era of Islam. So all of what I have covered was revealed and was instructed, imposed upon Muslims at the year 610. But let's continue. During the Middle Age, women were the cause of the downfall of Adam, and therefore were Satan trapped and should be looked at with caution and wariness, because they caused the first downfall of humanity. Therefore, all evils comes first from woman. In the book Marriage, East and West by David Vera Mace or Mac, it would be hard to find anywhere a collection of more degrading references to the female sex than the early church fathers provide. English common law. All real property which a wife held at the time of marriage become a possession of her husband. He was entitled to any profit from operating the property during the joint life of the spouse. Protestant Reformation. Now Europe decided to free itself from the chain of Catholic. The position of women in the society, however, still carried this basic theme. Women were not full human beings. French writers during the Revolution, Rousseau and Voltaire, and others looked at women as a burden that need to be taken care of. Rousseau, in his book, Emile, proposed a different form of education for women based upon the fact that women were unable to understand what men were able to understand. Now, let's go to 18th century. The first feminine movements, first book, Vindication for the Rights
of woman by Mary. Women received certain rights. So this is the first feminine movements. They received the legal rights because until that year, women were not able to own properties and were not able to organize of their wealth as men did. The Industrial Revolution caused another movements. Women, especially in England, were forced to labor for many hours in the coal mine and so forth, and would receive no pay whatsoever compared to men. So the call was that people who work the same amount of hours deserve the same amount of money or pay. Second World War left a huge number of widows. New movements now called for greater sexual freedom for women and men as well. The late 19th century, the situation started to improve by a series of acts, starting with Married Women Properties Act in 1870, modified in 1882 and 1887. Married women now achieve the right to own properties and to enter contracts on equality with spinster and widows and divorce. And finally, in 1990s, the common argument in the West is that we should discuss gender, not sex. This idea was expressed recently in the book that just came out recently, The Age of Extreme. The author discusses the idea that there is no difference between male and female, and the gender is only due to environment. So therefore, we cannot change the environment, and if you change the environment, you will change, so man become a woman and men become a woman, and everybody can do the same, the other rule, by just education, change the education and climate. Now, this is my conclusion. In the past, women were degraded and generally used as object of lust. Women in earlier civilization were very low to the extent that they were denied basic human dignity. In the last 2,500 years old tradition, we came from the first extreme expressed by Greeks. Women were denied their essential humanity, to this extreme expressed today, where there is no difference between the sex and it is an issue of gender and social climate. Famous women in Islamic history. So when you read the history of women in Islam, you will find they have scholars, worshippers, professors, warriors, supporters, general excellence, like eloquence, and many women of political insight. In the Holy Quran, you will find that the name of woman exists, like we have a number, like we have Eve and Mary, Virgin Mary, and Bilqis, and so honoring a number of women in the history. So not only the prophets, not only the male, but also we have a number of female. Warriors, as I told you before, they are not obliged to go for battle in the battlefield, but they took part by their choice, carrying water, nursing, and also fight. This woman, this is the number of battles she attended, and the Prophet said she didn't turn right or left in the battle, but that I saw her fighting near me. Famous women supporters in Islam: a charity, school builders, and trusts. So these are the names of them. And this is the biography of one of them. Her name is Zubaydah. So she was the wealthiest person and most powerful person in the world at her time. As you see, like in politics and in science and knowledge and like supporters of people who study and learn and religious scholars. What about the knowledge, acquiring knowledge? You can find great scholars, female scholars, and these scholars, they taught religious scholars. So one of them, she taught 88 great scholars learned from her, and her name is Sayyidah Aisha bint Abu Bakr. And this is her like expertise, like including medicine, math, genealogy, history, the literature, poetry. And I'm gonna just go very quick. So this is the name of Muslim female scholars in the history. So like this is 700 Christian era. So this one, among her students, was a judge of Al-Madinah. Al-Madinah was like the capital of Muslims' empire. And what is interesting in that is that these women who were like considered scholars at their time, they were not from like a high class or from the elite. But some of them, they were like servant, but because they were intelligent, they were smart, so they started to study. And this is a name of one of them. So learning and education was not limited to a certain class, but also to everybody in the community. And here you can follow with the years here, Christian era. Yeah, and this woman had authored a well-known biographical dictionary. This is a well-known dictionary in Arabic countries. So this is a well-known scholar in our culture, and he named 170 well-known women at his time as a scholar. By the way, these are just a few names because I had to make it short. And now, the last one, the last well-known Muslim female scholar was this woman, Fatima, the last woman scholar known. After that, we couldn't find, because when I looked at the encyclopedia Who's Who, so you can find their number was increasing, and at a certain time, like 1831, the number declined. Current famous woman in Islam. So nowadays also we have a number of them, but they are not that, we don't have that many. And one of them you might heard of is Ingrid Mattson, the president of Islamic Society of North America. She's a well-known scholar here in New England. So as I told you, when I looked at Who's Who, so this is from Who's Who. So when you follow with the year, you will find that at the year like 1449, the number of the entries, what does this mean? Using the reference, using woman scholar as a reference in their book was like 1551. And then it declined, and in 1987 it was only 4. It is of interest to notice that according to the Plain Truth, February 1984, in its 50-year anniversary issue, world population increased 136%, and Islam increased 235%. Not only that, but for every 1 female convert to Islam, 4 females convert to Islam. According to Heart newspaper, the majority of new Muslims are women and more dedicated to lifestyle of Islam, even more than other women who were born Muslims. So even here in America, like in the United States, the number of people convert to Islam, like 1 male for like 4 female. So do you think like these women, they converted to Islam because they didn't understand what Islam is about, or they were deceived? And this is my references, well authentic references. Thank you very much for listening to me, and now let me open the floor for your questions, and we will entertain whatever you have. You had a question?
Yeah, I was at a seminar in Norway when you know Yusuf Estes?
Yes, I know him.
Yeah,
He's my friend.
He had this seminar, and he was talking about how women should be protected by men, that they shouldn't leave their house or be out alone without the protection of male relatives. But don't you find it kind of contradicting to protect women? Men should protect women from men, if you know what I mean. It's like women should cover themselves up to be protected, but they're protecting themselves from men, and they should be protected by men from men. If you see my point, isn't it kind of contradicting? Shouldn't we change the view of how men perceive women for them to be safe, not to cover up their beauty, because that is just, I believe, misconception is something rooted in history that can be changed to men, the way men view women.
Okay, Yusuf Estes, he was a priest,
Yeah.
and converted to Islam, and he has been studying Islam for the past 15 years. I know him, he's my friend. But he's not the one who gives fatwa. You know the meaning of fatwa? So he's not a scholar of Islam. He's not a scholar. So he and his family were like Catholic priest or Protestant, I guess. So they were like, they had some hierarchies, and after that, he and his father and his wife, they converted to Islam. And ever since, he's learning and, going everywhere to teach Islam, something like that. So with respect to protection, if you have a secure society, so if you can guarantee your security, let me say it very easy now. You live in the dormitory, right? And they said, okay, I used to be at UMass. And after 5 years, we heard about problems of harassing women and bothering them and abusing them. So they started to have a new regulation and laws. And they said, if any girl think that she will be outside that late, she should call her friend, someone whom she trusts, to accompany her. Yeah, because that happened at UMass. So if you have a good security in the town or in the city, no problem. My wife used to walk at night in Amherst, Massachusetts, by herself. She was a doctoral student, and she used to go to the class and come back. So if you have a good security, that's fine. But if you don't have a security, I believe non-Muslims, even atheists, people who don't believe in anything, your brother will not let you to go outside if he hears that there will be some problems around. So what he refers is to this. But this is not a general law. By the way, one of the problems of understanding Islam is that when you open the Holy Quran and you read one verse, just one verse, and try to get the meaning about one topic from one verse, this is wrong. This is wrong. Why? Because you got to study all the verses and all the tradition, everything talking about this subject. Otherwise, you are going to miss the whole concept. So that's why I encourage people who are interested to read and to learn something about Islam, not to go on their own and open the book and just to read, but try to seek the knowledge, ask someone who's knowledgeable, because you are going to miss the whole concept. You know that Muslims don't eat pork and drink wine, right? But there is a verse in the Holy Quran saying that you eat the food of people of book like Christian and Jewish. So if you go by this verse, everybody is going to eat pork and drink wine. But we have to gather all the information about food and drink from the Holy Quran in order to get the whole picture about something. So Yusuf Estes is not a scholar. He converted to Islam, and he loves Islam. That's why he goes by his courage sometimes. Yeah. Any more question?
There was like a questionnaire distributed among you, so would you please return it before you go? And if you like any part of my talk, I have it in the PowerPoint, so I can send it to you if you like, because this is like an authentic reference for woman status in Islam, about woman status in Islam. Thank you very much, and hopefully we can see you next year.